Okay, ladies, now we're going to start the assembly process, and I'm going to put on the first 9 pieces, which will complete the little boy or the groom. And so we're going to start with the pants. Now I have taken the pants and then I have put a little bit of silicone in the center of the piece, and I've also put a little bit of silicone on the side that has bent up, that's going to align with her wedding dress. So I'm going to take my tweezers and place that. Now you're going to match it so that you're sure that the center of his pants meets the center of his jacket. And I'm going to push it down here and let it pull up a little bit at the legs. You could also cut the pants apart if you want to give the legs a little bit of separation, but I'm just going to do it all in one piece here. Now what you might want to do is to place your jacket piece on, just to make sure that you're going to cover up where the jacket meets the pants, that you're not going to have a gap at the bottom. Okay, so our next piece, this is piece 2. Our next piece is going to be the sleeve, which is this little guy here. And I'm going to take my awl. For those of you who don't have an awl, just find something that you can use for the silicone so that you can place just a little bit of silicone on here and remove it. So that way you get an opportunity to place it where you want it and not have it end up in places you don't want it. You can use any kind of a pointy surface if you don't have an awl. I bought these from Paper Tool World in Australia. It's a great little tool. I don't remember exactly how much it was, but you can buy these at Ace Hardware and places like that have tools. They'll have an awl. And then you need a good pair of tweezers. I would suggest a pair of tweezers that has a bent edge so that you can place things the way you want them. So then we're going to match the outside edge and the top edge, and we're going to push it down a little bit. And then the next piece is going to be the ruffle on his shirt that sticks out from behind his, it sticks out underneath his jacket. So we're going to put just a little bit of silicone on here. And you don't want to get it so that it's going to squish out, because silicone will leave a mark on your paper and it doesn't come off easily. So I would just take my little awl and put just a little bit on the edge of that. And then we're going to turn it over, and we're going to take the piece and we're going to, oops, my sleeve moved around a little bit here. Make sure you line up your outside edge on that sleeve. And then I'm going to put my ruffle on. And I'm just going to take my tweezers and push it down just a little bit. And then you can adjust it so that it meets the edge of the jacket. Remember, silicone takes approximately 20 minutes to set up completely. So you can either use silicone or you can use a fast tack glue, whichever your preference is. Sometimes the fast tack glue is better because it sets up faster. The silicone is better if you're trying to raise the edge a little bit. So now we're going to take the jacket, and on the jacket piece I outlined, oops, let me see here. Here we go. On the jacket piece I outlined the 3 buttons and the little tabs and the button. And then I raise those from the outside by pushing them forward from the back. You trace them on the front, push them forward from the back. And then that way they stand up a little bit, but these are tiny, tiny, tiny pieces. So you don't really want to try and attach those. I mean, some people will, and if you want to, that's fine. You can cut all these little pieces out of print number 5. Then I'm going to take my awl, or whatever instrument you're using, and I'm going to place some little areas of silicone. You need to keep it away from the edge of the piece, because when you go to put some pressure on that, it will come out, and you don't want silicone oozing out. Kind of judge this. You want this raised a little in the center, but you want it touching at the top, but not at the bottom. I think his coat should stand up a little at the bottom. So then we're going to take this guy and we're going to place this. Oops. And we're going to double check his sleeve because it keeps wanting to move around here. And then we're going to put his jacket on. And I'm going to push it down a little bit so that we have contact. And then I'm going to leave it up at the bottom a little. Now you may want to glue this edge together where his jacket is. You might want to glue this bottom edge of his jacket down, but I would wait until my silicone sets up first, and then you can glue that down. So remember, silicone takes about 20 minutes for it to be solid. Then the next piece that goes on is, oops, number 5, which is his collar. And I'm going to just shape this a little bit so that it's a little rounded. So when I put it down, it will have something to grab onto. And for the collar, because it's such a, excuse me, a small piece, and I want it to stay because it's an anchor point for me for the jacket. So I'm going to take a little bit of a fast tack glue and use that on the jacket, on the collar. So I'm going to sneeze. Again, I'm sorry. They usually come in 3, so there may be one more coming. And what I'm going to do with this is clean the silicone off of my awl. And then I'm going to take a little bit of fast tack glue, and I'm just going to spread that on the collar itself, making sure that it's not on the edges anywhere, so that when I push it down, it's not going to ooze out. You just want to get the center point and the inside edge of the collar glued down. So then I'm going to take my tweezers, and then I'm going to place the outside edge of this, and then I'm going to place the inside edge, and we're going to match all of our edges and make sure that we don't have any glue that's sticking out. And then before your glue sets up, you can adjust this up or down a little bit so that it lines up with the suit jacket. So we're just going to push it around a little bit here. I'm going to move that up just a little bit because my lapel's a little low. Excuse me, my allergies are killing me today. So just kind of adjust your collar so that everything matches up. Just be careful because you can shift, you can cause your jacket to shift. So make sure that your jacket bottom is still lined up. And then you can come back and put a little bit of fast tack glue right on this edge. You just have to make sure there's no silicone there. Glue will not stick to silicone, to a silicone area. So then I'm just going to push this back a little bit and hold it for a second. Okay. Now, that's number 5. Number 6 is your bow tie, which is right here. Now, for the bow tie, I haven't really shaped that, so we're just going to shape it just a little bit. It's kind of a tiny little thing. but we want the center of it to have a little bit of mass. So what I'm going to do is turn it over, and I'm going to push the center out a little bit on my shaping pad. And then when I turn it back over, I'm going to go around the outside edge of the knot in the center. Okay, and then I'm going to go back and push it back. And then I'm going to take a little bit larger stylus ball, and I'm just going to kind of run it down the center so you get a little bit of cupping so that it curls back a little bit. And now we need our tweezers again. So when we turn this over, it's no longer flat. It's got a little bit of body to it. And you might want to take it and push it down right here. Just a tad. Just so, oops, so I'm sorry. So you have a little bit of mass. So I'm just going to push this down a little bit. And then we're just going to cup the bow a little bit. Because his bow tie needs a little body. And then I'm going to take my tweezers and hang on to an outside edge here. And I'm going to take a little bit of silicone, just a little bit. And we're going to put a little dab here. If you have too much along the edge, take your finger and wipe it off. And then we're going to put a little bit over here. And then I'm going to make sure that none of it is hanging out over my bow. And then I'm going to take my little bow, and we're going to stick the little bow right there. Oops. And my little guy and my little bow is smaller than the one you're going to be dealing with. And I'll show you how much in a minute. So now his bow's in place. His bow tie is in place. So now I'm going to put his head on. Now to do that, I'm going to take a fair-sized dollop of glue, of silicone, I'm sorry, and I'm going to put it sort of in the middle of his head, but more down toward his chin, because that's what I want to be lifted up. I don't want his chin to be down when I put him together. I want his chin to be lifted away from his neck. So we can do that. And I'm going to put just a little bit of it, just kind of wipe it along this edge so that I can get some adhesion. Just make sure that you don't have any silicone that is going to squish out when you put him down. Then we're going to take the little guy, and I'm going to place his head right here. And we're going to check for alignment. So we want his ear to line up with the ear he has on the base. And then I'm going to lift his chin just a little bit so that when you look at him, there's space between his chin and his bow tie. So just double check. If you find that you've got it shaped a little too round at the bottom, then you need to pull it up a little. So try pushing down at the top of the head, and then you can pull him up a little bit this way. And just make sure that his ear lines up with the ear you have on the base print. So we have his face on now. So now what we have left to do is we have to put the hair on. So I have a couple of them that I cut out. So what we're going to do is we're going to dry fit this a little bit, because it needs to go around his ear, and it needs to go down behind the ear and down on the side of his face, so that his whole head is covered in hair. Personally, I'd wait a few minutes just because you're wanting your silicone to set up a little bit. But I'm going to show you how it goes down, and then you can do it at your own pace. For me, I'm going to put a little bit of white glue, a little bit of fast tack glue, along the top edge because I want this to seat really well. I want to make sure that the hair sticks to his head. So we're going to put a little bit of glue along that edge. Excuse me, my allergies are killing me here. And then I'm going to put just a little bit of silicone kind of in the middle, but make sure that it's a little bit of silicone because you don't want it, if it gets down between his hair, it will do two things. It will ooze out and it won't allow you to move it around. So now that I have his hair, we're going to fit it on here. We're going to make sure we push it behind his ear, and then we're going to move it up so that it comes to the top of his head. And you're going to have to watch his chin in this process because it's going to want to move around. Oops, sorry, I keep getting off the camera. So that's hair number one, and we have it pushed in front of his ear and behind his ear, and we have it attached to the edge there. Then I'm going to take hair number two, and I'm going to make sure that I get a little bit of a curve to this so that it curves back toward the body on the little guy, and that it will allow it to look a little rounded because we want, remember, the top of his head isn't flat. And I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on this to hold it in place because I already have his head rounded. Now I'm going to put my second layer on, and I'm going to make sure that it goes along the side of his head, and I'm going to make sure it goes around his ear here. So now he looks like a tow-headed little boy with a lot of little fuzzy hair, which is what little guys have. And I'm going to pull his chin up just a little bit, and I'm going to move some of the hair behind his head, or behind his ear, and some of it in front of his ear. Okay, so the only thing left for the little guy is the little ribbon on his cane. So I'm going to take my little ribbon and I'm going to roll my ball where the knot is, and I'm going to roll it out just to curve it a little bit. Oops. And then once you have that, you can take this and push it away a little bit. Take and bend it so that it's at two different levels. And then I'm going to put this on with some glue because it's too tiny and I don't want to wait for silicone to dry. So we're going to take just a little bit of glue, make sure that it doesn't get on the edges of your piece, and then I'm going to take my tweezers and hang on to it. Oops. So that I can put a little bit of glue on the knot that goes around. Then if you have anything that's hanging off the edges, just take your fingers and wipe it off. And then we're going to turn it around so that it's going the way the one on his cane is going. And I'm going to lay it down. I'm going to take my thumb nail and hold on to it for a second until I get it placed. And then you can push this up and you can leave it sticking up a little bit if you want. So now we have the bow that's tied onto his cane, and just kind of line your pieces up. Okay, so that's the boy, that's the groom, and then we're going to work on the bride in the next session. Okay, so there he is. He looks good. Okay, you guys get these first 9 pieces put on, and then we'll come back.